Colorado advancing to the round of 32 with a 96-73 win. It's their third NCAA tournament win in the past 50 seasons and first since 2012. They've won 7 of their last 8 games overall. They finished with 16 threes, a program record in an NCAA tournament game. The previous record was 7. It's their largest win in tournament history. As for Georgetown, the Cinderella run, which included a Big East tournament championship, is over. Their best 4-game winning streak of the season is snapped. They cover the spread, plus 200 on the money line, and the over hits. A.J. Ross after the game with Mckinley Wright.
Mckinley, first NCAA tournament appearance for these Buffs since 2016. And talk about making a grand appearance. You had a double-double, 13 assists. Collectively, you made it rain. How exciting is this one?
Man, this for everybody that picked Georgetown to beat us. You know, it got to the point where I had to deactivate my Twitter account because so many people were sending me that everybody's picks across the country that Georgetown was going to win. So that lit a fuel under us, man. We were excited to come out today. It was all of our first time playing here. You know, it was a joy. It was a pleasure.
And you talk about respect, even as a 5th seed, the highest seeding in program history.
Crazy.
You put up 96 points on Georgetown. Does this now demand some more respect of this team? What kind of statement does a win like this make?
I mean, we've been trying. We've been trying to get the respect all year. Obviously, nobody respects us still, so we still got more work to do. Credit to Georgetown. You know, they made a Big East, an incredible Big East run and won their conference tournament. Man, I'm just excited we got this win today. That's all that matters.
Incredible win. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Nice respect there from Mckinley Wright. And you talk about a Buffalo barrage. The per-game averages entering Saturday in terms of the three-pointers, 7.5. They more than doubled that. Percentage, 64%. Points from three-point range, 48 points in this game for the Buffaloes. Fantastic performance from beyond the arc for them. So in terms of the bracket, they advance and will get set to play the winner of Florida State versus UNC Greensboro. That game coming up on Monday. And for more on this game, we now welcome in CBS Sports college basketball analyst Chip Patterson, along with analyst Tim Doyle, who joins us from the William Hill Sportsbook at Horseshoe Hammond in Indiana. Let's start with their reaction here. Georgetown had the nostalgia factor going in, but then they actually had to play some basketball. Colorado obviously playing a much better game. How stunned are you with the margin of victory in terms of this result, Chip?
I'm very surprised. I picked Colorado to win, and I thought they were the better team. And as much as, you know, I want to you want to just make this about Georgetown, right? You want to say that it was midnight for Cinderella. You want to say that this is it. This is it for the run. They ran out of steam. They used all their bullets in the Big East tournament. This game, to me, is much more about the Colorado squad, because this was a group that one of the reasons that we were doubting them is because they had some bad losses. They lost to Cal. They lost to Washington. And those bad losses really tarnished a resume that also had 3 wins against USC, who I think is one of the best teams in the Pac-12, and splitting the regular season series with UCLA and Colorado. And they come in and they just turn into a wildly efficient offensive machine. Now, on the season, they're top 20 in offensive efficiency, so that shouldn't be too surprising. But when you look at just the whole performance, there were 34 made field goals. Colorado had assists on 27 of them. That is an absurd rate. That does say that Georgetown's defense was a little bit slow on the rotations, and that when they were doing their on-ball defense, it left something to be desired. Colorado was able to just get good looks at the rim, but still, the fact that the ball movement was great, they were sharing it. You shoot 60% from 3. Absolutely ridiculous, above any expectations for me in terms of the margin of victory, but not surprising that they won, and a great statement that Colorado, it may have a floor of losing to quad 3 opponents, but its ceiling is being able to operate at a very high clip.
Yeah, biggest win for them in tournament history. We look at Georgetown, it's their second worst loss, the worst coming in 1996 in the Elite Eight versus John Calipari's UMass. They lost by 24 points. So, Tim, I'll ask you, did we overestimate Georgetown or did we underestimate Colorado?
I think we underestimated Colorado, and now all of a sudden, stand up if you're a Pac-12 fan. UCLA, Oregon State, And now Colorado 3-0 so far for the Pac-12. And take that into account, especially if you're looking forward for the rest of the day. You still got USC. You still got Oregon. There's still some other opportunities to get involved in Pac-12 teams. But I think Georgetown, this is just a really bad matchup against the Colorado team that the way they shot the three today, the way they played with so much team cohesion, I think they would have beat anybody in college basketball today, including Gonzaga. Like, when you shoot that well, and the way the game is played now, you saw Jabari Walker step out and bury three after three. No one on Georgetown could guard him. You know, Georgetown was more athletic, bigger, more physical. He was like, no, come on out here. Come on out the three-point land. And he kept stepping out, and not only shooting threes, making them at a highly efficient rate. This is college basketball. This is why we love March Madness, because a team like Colorado on this particular day was not going to be beaten by Gonzaga, was going to be Baylor, Houston. They would have beat anybody in their path. Today was their day. Unfortunately for Patrick Ewing, great Big East Conference run, but he ran into the wrong team on the wrong day. This was all Buffaloes.
Yeah, Colorado really got games from their big men. You mentioned Wright and Walker. Walker had 24 points in this game. So when you look at that and you look at perhaps moving forward, I mean, those two guys obviously very important here, Tim, for them. Just to comment on their performance in this game.
Well, Mckinley Wright was outstanding. I mean, 13 assists, a floor leader. And you could just see, Jeremy, and you pointed it out, his maturity after the game. You know, he said Georgetown had a great year. He had to shut off his Twitter because he was getting, so much negative feedback about this game. That's a pretty high-level maturity, right? Normally guys now are creating burner accounts to come out of those people. It's almost like no one has that sort of maturity. Kevin Durant doesn't have that sort of maturity, but that rubbed off on his squad. And let's not forget, this is a Colorado team that scored 47 against Tennessee and 56 against Oregon. Do you want to know why they scored those many points? Because they were missing the same threes they were canning today. This was really just a perfect storm of they started to make threes. Then all of a sudden, Georgetown has to extend. Now McKinley Wright is getting in the lane. I'm telling you, they would have beat any team in college basketball today. Really impressive performance. But stand up if you're a Pac-12 fan.
All right, well, let's move the clock ahead here. How do you like them matching up against FSU or UNC Greensboro, depending on who comes out of that in the 32 chip?
Well, I think that the Florida State matchup is obviously more intimidating. I mean, Leonard Hamilton's got a rotation that runs 8-9 deep. His best NBA prospect, Scotty Barnes, comes off the bench. He was the ACC Sixth Man of the Year, in addition to being the ACC Rookie of the Year. And I think that when we start to scout that one, that's a team that's going to really be able to bring the fight to Colorado. The Buffs are a physical team. They welcome that kind of matchup. But I think UNCG, obviously a little bit of a step down. That would be a team that Colorado would be able to bully. They would not be able to bully Florida State. Tim's right. If Colorado shoots a three like they did against Georgetown, then they will beat Florida State. But what do we know is that it's very, very difficult to expect 16 threes at a 60% clip for that to happen 2 games in a row. Florida State, very capable of being able to keep up in a shootout. They've got a lot of offensive firepower, a lot of weapons, even beyond Barnes. But I think that for Florida State, you take a look at this tape. If you take care of business against UNC Greensboro, which as we're speaking right now, hanging in the balance. You take a look at this tape and you're very intimidated and you're trying to figure out ways to use all of your length to really get in those passing lanes. Again, the way that they shared the ball, the way that they worked it around Georgetown defenders was fantastic. They're totally in sync right now offensively. For Florida State, you got to hope you can use your length to disrupt some of that, create some turnovers and some easy buckets the other way.
Yeah, and that's the fun of the tournament, right? If you're a Colorado Buffalo fan, you know who you're a fan of right now? UNCG. Come on, Greensboro. Like, you start rooting for that upset because now your bracket could open up. It's obvious you don't want to play Florida State. And a guy like Jabari Walker, who's the son of NBA great Samaki Walker, great draft day suit as well, as pointed out at halftime. He had the hat on, the whole 9 yards. What happens is the 6'8" freshman, next game against Florida State, when you come off the bench, and I've been in those locker rooms, scouting report, Jabari Walker's like 7th. When you have a game like this, you get elevated into that top 3 or 4, especially with Florida State. So You know, he's had some monster games this year against Cal and Utah, and then all of a sudden he's taking those freshman dips. There'd be massive adjustments made by Florida State, but heck, that game is still in the balance. And if you are a Buffaloes fan, you are pulling for Wes Miller's squad at UNCG because that is by far the more favorable matchup. I think Florida State's a Final Four potential type team. I don't feel the same way about Colorado or UNCG, but today, they're the best team in college basketball.
Yeah, bucket separating those two as they close the moments of that game. Okay, just one last question here before I let you guys go. Tim, what does Patrick Ewing take away from this loss?
That's a great question because I thought they really struggled in every aspect of the game. They struggled defending the three. Obviously, that stood out by Colorado had made a school record for threes made in an NCAA game with 2 minutes left in the first half. So there was no adjustment there at that point. They missed a ton of free throws. The execution was poor. But this was almost like a perfect storm where when you get routed like this and you take a look, it's one of the worst losses they've ever had besides a 96 against that UMass team that had Marcus Camby and Lou Rowe, Edgar Padilla, Travieso. It's one of the great teams in college basketball of that era. But this was a game that you almost got to draw a line through. You know, we see baseball games sometimes. We see NBA games, whatever sport it is, where a team gets blown out and the next game they have to respond. Well, there's going to be no game to respond for Patrick Ewing. But this was a huge bounce-back year for him personally. Chip, I wasn't sure he was going to be the coach much longer. Matt McClung transfers down to Texas Tech. They're still playing. It's been some off-the-court issues with Georgetown, and they were not trending in the right direction. But they go to New York. They put together some magic. They win the Big East Conference Championship. He's yelling at security guards, you got to know who I am. But I thought this was a big year for him personally. So a lot to build on. Obviously a great basketball history. I love seeing him on the sidelines there, being a former alum. But, Chip, I'm not really sure if he had a bad year, if he would have kept his job.
Oh, without a doubt, he was going to be at the top of all those hot seat conversations. You know, we saw that Monday, right after Selection Sunday, when it's just head coach after head coach after head coach, and even some more movement on through the week. Patrick Ewing probably would have gotten caught up in that as well. But I look at this and I specifically look at Georgetown's roster, and there's a lot of seniors here. But what you're hoping is that the underclassmen, that they'll remember this and that those underclassmen go on to become leaders in the future, so that as you're making your way back to the NCAA tournament, or if you're able to make it back to the NCAA tournament, those players can tell the younger players, say, hey, we weren't ready. Because that's what I saw. I saw a Hoyas team that just did not be able to meet Colorado. Like they had to walk out for the duel, and when they said draw, like Georgetown hadn't even put its pants on yet. And the fact that they were late, the fact that they were a little bit slow starting and the game got out of hand quickly, I just think that you hope that for the younger players that you can get back to the NCAA tournament and they can impart this experience onto the rest of the roster to say, hey, we got to make sure that we are sharp early, because you never know who you're going to meet. It might be a Colorado team that is dialed in offensively, and if you are not playing good on defense right off the jump, the game's going to get out of hand quickly. So it could be a program building moment, and maybe it is even a program building moment for Patrick Ewing with the experience of what he and his staff can do to help better prepare that team. But it just looked like the ball was tipped and Colorado was ready in a way that Georgetown wasn't. And so that's what Patrick Ewing and his staff take moving forward, is that experience to make sure that that doesn't happen again if they can make it back to the NCAA tournament.
Certainly a program highlight moment for Colorado, their biggest win in NCAA tournament history. Tim Doyle, Chip Patterson, thanks for hopping on with us to discuss this particular matchup. It is Colorado moving on from the round of 64. Don't forget, you can catch the madness wherever you are via the March Madness Live app. Take the games wherever you go. Download the app at your preferred app store.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.